Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Government Information Service Studios. This morning, we will be launching the 2018 Nobel Laureate Festival. My name is Richmond Felix. I bid you welcome to this morning's ceremony. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Her Excellency Dame Paulette Louise, Chairman of the National Nobel Laureate Committee. Would also like to acknowledge the presence of our sponsor, our first sponsor for this year's activities, in the person of Ms. Aletta Huntley-Wells, the country manager for First Citizens Investment Services Limited. Committee members in the persons of Mrs. Valerie King Nobel from the South Louis Community College, Ms. Christelle Lee from St. Mary's College, Mr. Gandalf St. Clair from Warwick Productions, Mrs. Margot Thomas from the Archives Authority of St. Lucia, Ms. Delia Forswa of Options Design Inc. and St. Lucia Books, Ms. Perpetua James, I always slip on this one, Perpetua James of the Dennery Development Foundation, Ms. Solange Charles Belize of the Office of Governor General, Ms. Eurylis Delaire of the Office of Governor General, Ms. Delia Dolor, coming from a long way, of Delia Dolor Media, Mr. Jean-Claude Lagor of the Cultural Development Foundation, Mrs. Leslie Crane Mitchell of the UWI Open Campus, Mrs. Kieran St. Rose, our committee member, Ms. Drina Frederick from the Cultural Development Foundation, and Mr. Tyrone Harris from the Cultural Development Foundation. Also, friends and supporters of this committee's work and activities over the next few weeks, members of the press, and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Welcome this morning. It is not so much my role to welcome you, but it is of somebody who is greater than I in so many ways. And as we remember our last meeting going out of 2017, when then the Governor General, Her Excellency, would announce to us that she would no longer be Governor General as we go to launch this morning. So the reality has finally set in, at least for me, and I'm sure for others and the nation. Her Excellency has had a long and distinguished career as Governor General of St. Lucia and has ensured that the Nobel Laureate Week at one point in time, which has now grown into a full festival of, I think, 50 events that we will be heralding at this 20th year of the festival. 25th. So 25 by 2, you get 50. I would like to ask Her Excellency to give us some welcome remarks this morning, which will be surely received greatly on this juncture. So I call to the podium Her Excellency Dame Paulette Louise, Chairman of the Nobel Laureate Festival Committee, to bid you welcome at this media launch of the Nobel Laureate Festival 2018. Excellency.
Thank you, Mr. Felix, and it is a pleasure to be here this morning. I was saying to Richmond when I came in that that was the first time I was coming to his studio, and because I suppose then I wasn't a media person. I mean, I know there are always press briefings in this studio, but it looks good, and I think we've perhaps found ourselves a home for for Nobel laureate festival activities, particularly for briefings and press sessions of this nature. Yes, let me welcome all of you. Well, my committee members need no welcome. We've been working on this thing since September. But let me welcome members of the media and friends and well-wishers. This year, 2018, we are really looking at the 25th anniversary of our national honoring of our Nobel laureates. Just a quick historical note. Cedric received the Nobel Prize for Literature towards the latter part of 1992. And I think it was then that the country realized that our two laureates had something in common other than the award of the Nobel Prize, and that is they were both born on the 23rd of January. Of course, by now, everybody in St. Lucia should know that we have two laureates, and they were born on the 23rd of January. And this is in fact the reason why Nobel Laureate Day, when it was first observed in 1993, that was the genesis of Nobel Laureate Day. And then it grew to Nobel Laureate Week, and as of last year, with the increased participation of organizations and agencies, we upgraded, and we're now a festival. You know? And I recall saying last year, well, if it's a festival, you know, there are some things that go with a festival. Something festive, something grand. So that is what we're really trying to do this year. So we have two things, two 25th anniversaries, two quarter-century anniversaries. The award of the Nobel Prize for Literature to Cedric, and the 25th anniversary of our celebration of their achievements. And so we have, as our theme for this year, celebrating excellence, consolidating our legacy. This year, you will realize that is the first year we are observing the festival or honoring our laureates without a living laureate. And all the more reason, therefore, why we should step up to the plate and really ensure that, you know, that the death or the passing of our two distinguished sons, you know, are not left on, you know, to wither, you know, put on the scrap heap of history. We do need, now that they are not with us, we have to make an extra effort, I think, to keep not only their memory alive, but their work alive. We have over the years used the concept of excellence, you know, to underpin our activities. So that's why we, over the last, I think, 10 years, we've been using celebrating excellence and then another tagline. This year, as I said, is consolidating our legacy. So it is really excellence. And what I want to share is that excellence is not something you just get up one day and you realize that you either have got or achieved. I think the South East Community College's motto puts it, you know, succinctly. It is the pursuit of excellence. And so, you know, it is a journey to, a seeking after. And that is what the celebration of the achievements of our laureates have been all about. We who come after them are pursuing that route, that path to excellence. They have gone before us, they have blazed the trail, they have left the footprints. So it isn't as if we don't know where we're going or we don't have any signposts. We have footprints. So we follow in their footprints. Admittedly, for some of us, by the time we put our little feet or little achievement in their footprint, you know, we probably would be swallowed up. You know, our little footprint within their little footprint might be, you know, kind of minuscule. But as we grow, our footprints would get larger and larger, with the hope that one day, some of us too would have footprints that fit right into those of Sir Arthur and Sir Derek. In other words, some of us might also be Nobel laureates. So this is what I would like to leave with you today. I mean, you've heard me so many times since 2000. Every year, since I'm chair, I've tried to tell you what Nobel Laureate Festival Week is all about. And if anybody doesn't know it now, they really have no excuse for not knowing it. Although yesterday I had to give somebody, you know, a little historical brief on the genesis of Nobel Laureate Day, Nobel Laureate Week, even now. But, you know, we don't give up. We don't give up. After a while, you know, just sticking at it, just sticking to it, it'll become, you know, indelible in our psyche. So this is where we are today, 2018, a quarter century of celebration of the achievements, the works, the life of our two Nobel laureates. We wish wherever they are, and we hope they're in a very good place, we wish them the rest and the peace that perhaps we are still not yet privileged to enjoy. But we just want them to know that we are there on our way to being with them. Now, there I go being all philosophical, but what to say? So I want to end by thanking everybody, all those my committee members who've been over the last, not just for this year, but over this last 25 years, been really working diligently to let this festival, you know, be really our flagship national event. Hopefully, we'll get there. So, thanks to all of you. Thanks for your efforts in this particular year. Richmond talked about our sponsor. Well, I mean, we have First Citizens. They sponsor a particular event, but our main sponsor, if you can call it a sponsor, is in fact the government of St. Lucia. I mean, we would really like to have, you know, now that we now a festival, you know, you really kind of need to have resources that can make the observance, you know, more festive and not really, you know, looking at our pennies and what can we do there. No, we can't go that big. We can't, you know, live our dreams. But hopefully next year our subvention from government might increase. But I want to say a special thank you to First Citizens Investment Services, who over the last, I think, 5 years have been sponsoring a specific event, have been contributing to the observance of a special event, and that is the Derek Walcott, now we say Sir Derek Walcott Schools Festival, Israeli Drama and Theatre Festival. So, thank you, and let's make this year a festive one, a joyous one, and we will move forward, walking, as I said, in the footprints of our greats. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And those are some pretty big footprints to fill in.
You say there are footprints to fill in.
I know, and I was definitely talking about our two Nobel laureates. Sir Arthur, and Sir Derek. Very well. Um, Dimpolet has already said that the activities, many of us, some of us volunteer, some of us come on as part of our official duties. But really and truly, the activities take not only a lot of effort on behalf of the committee members and the support units around them, but also through raw financial injection to make them happen. And we are very grateful. Of course, the government of St. Lucia has taken on most of the burden of ensuring that these events happen. But without private sector involvement, directly financially, but also indirectly by rallying the troops, the employees, and the circles around them, the celebration of our two Nobel laureates would go largely unrecognized. At this point in time, I would like to call to the podium Mrs. Aletta Huntley-Wells, the country manager of First Citizens Investment Services Limited, St. Lucia, for her presentation.
Excuse me, I still have a lingering cough, but I will try. Her Excellency, Dame Paulette Louisi, also acknowledging Her Excellency Leif Escalona, Ambassador of the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela, other specially invited guests, media, well-wishers, good morning. It's indeed a very special occasion and key milestone, because this festival, which was created to highlight and celebrate St. Lucia's very own two Nobel laureates, is now in its 25th year. So it's been 25 years of not only reminding St. Lucia and the rest of the world of the achievements of these two great sons of the soil, but also 25 years of nurturing and inspiring our young people to go out, pursue their dreams, and blaze their own trails. Hats off to all the hardworking people of the Nobel Laureate Festival Committee, chaired by Dame Paulette Louisi, and other related groups and individuals who have tirelessly over the years given their time and their talent in making this the success that it is today. Now in its 5th year of being a sponsor, First Citizens Investment Services is again honored to be a part of this and remains steadfast in its commitment in supporting the people, arts, and culture in St. Lucia. The theme for this year's celebrations, Celebrating Excellence, Consolidating Our Legacy, is a call for us as a nation to bring together all that is good, all that contributes to the successes we had as a people, and use that as a platform for further achievements. While doing this, we must also not ignore the many trials and failures and areas where we fell short, for these too are powerful lessons to be used to drive us forward. For our youth in particular, we must continue to encourage and enable them in the pursuit of their dreams and passions. We as communities and as a nation have to work together to instill the discipline necessary for our young people to stay the course and to not regard stumbling blocks or failures as signs to give up. I am sure Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott encountered many stumbling blocks along their paths, but these did not stop them from achieving the great successes that they did. Our motto, the land, the people, the light. Here with the Nobel Laureate Festival and all that it encompasses, it's our people that shine brightly. Our people are our greatest treasure, and the way we engender our youth will determine how long and how bright this treasure shines. As our country continues to grow and solidify its place on the world stage, activities such as the Nobel Laureate Festival provide the avenue for uplifting our youth. This year's focus on the consolidation of our legacy will help to keep them grounded in what is true to our heritage and our culture. As part of our continued support of the arts and culture in St. Lucia and the nurturing of the dreams and aspirations of our youth, First Citizens Investment Services will be making a contribution towards the production of the Derek Walcott School Theatre Arts Festival. This year, the theatre will bring to life one of Walcott's most famous plays, Teacher and His Brothers. First Citizens Investment Services again congratulates the Nobel Laureate Committee for all of its hard work in making these events possible each year, as we remember and hold dear two of St. Lucia's greatest treasures. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Mrs. Arlette Huntley-Wells, for this presentation this morning. We are greatly appreciated of it. So, how do we celebrate in any measure, in any fitting way, that this immense contribution by two sons of the soil? At this point in time, we will, as committee members, make our various presentations of how we do it. And the first that we roll out is that last year, was it? I think it was last year that the committee decided it would have as the theme, celebrating excellence, celebrating being Lucian. And this year follows fittingly with a theme, celebrating excellence, consolidating our legacy. The Government Information Service has prepared a series of promos. It took an entire year, but we finally rolled it out, yes. And at this point in time, we will roll out the first of that series of promos. Let's go.
Nobel Laureate Festival, celebrating excellence, celebrating being Lucian.
In the series, these promos will feature a number of celebrities, people of worth, people who probably still have ways to go to fill in those deep, big shoes of Sir Arthur and Sir Derek, but again, who will call the rest of St. Lucia to celebrate in that regard. At this point in time, I would like to call our first committee member in the person of Ms. Delia Dolor of Delia Dolor Media to give her synopsis of what is in store from her perspective. Delia.
Thank you, Richmond. Your Excellency, Dame Paulette Louisi, Chair of the Nobel Laureate Festival Committee, committee members, of course, our diplomatic corps and special invited guests, media. Ladies and gentlemen, to celebrate the Nobel Laureate Festival, I spoke to Professor Anis Ismail. He is the Professor of General Practice at the University of Manchester, and of course that is where Sir Arthur spent a lot of his time. And although this professor is actually not an economist, his research on Sir Arthur's policies and the efforts that he made to tell everyone else about Sir Arthur, I thought that he was someone that I would really like to talk to, because he's not just someone who because of his area of expertise of work, that he had to do it. He did it because he felt that Sir Arthur was a very interesting person. And it came about like this. 7 years ago, the professor was the VP of the University of Manchester, who had responsibility for equality, diversity, and social responsibility. He often had to officiate graduations, and that year, one of the years, 2015, he wanted to talk about a prominent ethnic minority from Manchester. He asked for someone famous who came from there, and of course the name Sir Arthur Lewis was given. Professor Ismail was actually astounded that Sir Arthur was not only a black man, but he was Britain's first black professor. Something, of course, a lot of people even now don't know. And he produced most of his formative work that led to the Nobel Prize in 1979 at Manchester University, where he founded the School of Economics. After further investigations, the professor says during the interview that he discovered what an incredible person Sir Arthur was. There was a building, and there is a building there, which is actually named after Sir Arthur. But people didn't know who he was. The name was on the building, but no one knew who he was. And of course, when they found out, again, this is a black man, it was like, wow, they didn't know that. And that is why the professor decided he wanted to know more about that. And together with some of the students who were learning economics there, because Manchester is known for their expertise in that, they ensured that a proper launch was given to the building. So now there is an annual Sir Arthur Lewis Memorial Lecture every October in the UK, and October is the month where we celebrate their Black History Month. I told Professor Ismail about the Nobel Laureate Festival in St. Lucia, which he wasn't aware of, and he promised me that he will ensure students, staff, and everyone else that he comes across, that he will ensure that people know about our festival here. And incidentally, there is a school opposite Manchester University where there are lots of Caribbean children there, and he's going to facilitate ensuring that they know more about Sir Arthur. The interview will be broadcast on my radio show, The Dollar Factor, on Calfa Radio, which is in London. It's had about 1 million listeners. It's broadcast on the World Wide Web, available in podcast, and also the University of Manchester. They have media studios there. It'll be carried there and across as much as they can distribute it as well. And of course, it has to be here at home in St. Lucia. And thank you so much, Richmond and the GIS, for ensuring that we can circulate that. You will be astounded by some of the things that you will hear. This professor who has initially had nothing to do with economics, but learned about Sir Arthur and decided that the rest of the world had to do that too, at a time when it was very difficult for people of our culture to even be listened to. Sir Arthur did that. So if you'd like to listen online, it's going to be very early, GMT 9 a.m., but it's also available online. And if anyone wants a copy, they can let me know and I'll send it to them. And Richmond will let you know when it's going to be broadcast in St. Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delia. And that program, the first airing of Sir William Arthur Lewis Legacy Lives, an interview with Professor Anez Esmail, will be aired on Thursday, the 18th of January in the UK, and we will attempt to have a simultaneous broadcast in St. Lucia as we partner with the various media houses for these celebrations. Thanks again, Delia, for your presentation. At this point in time, I would like now to make this happen, we also have to mobilize the next generation, mostly through the education system, the students. And Sir Arthur Lewis Community College obviously has to make an involvement in that. And I call Mrs. Natalie Jolie Fannis to give us some insight as to how the young upcoming Sir Arthurs and Sir Derek are going to participate in this year's celebration.
Thank you, Richmond. I hope I can do that. Your Excellency, Dame Prelate Louise, thank you for continuing to chair this committee that is very much needed in our society. So we're very, very happy that this legacy will continue. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College is honored and embraces the responsibility of putting on 2 signature events of the Nobel Laureate Festival as the lone indigenous tertiary level institution which bears the name of one of our laureates. And these events, the first is the Sir Arthur Lewis Memorial Lecture, and that is slated for Thursday, January 25th. This year, like last year, it will be taking the format of a panel discussion. And the topic this year is climate change and its economic impact on St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean. And the panel will be led by Dr. Jimmy Fletcher, along with other panelists. That will take place at the Financial Center, and I believe that it will be recorded as well for further airing so that the general public can view it as well. The second activity that we do in conjunction with the Nobel Laureate Committee is the wreath laying ceremony, and that takes place on Friday, January 26th. And this year, of course, as Dame Paulette indicated, we actually have 2 grave sites where we need to lay the wreaths. So there's a different dynamic for us, and we're still working on how that is going to happen. But in addition to that, at the presentations, we didn't only pay tribute to Sir Arthur Lewis, we also pay tribute to Sir Derek Walcott in our expressive recounts of Sir Arthur's work. It was done in a literary format. So this year, we're working on even consolidating that, and usually we would have a guest speaker, and we are looking for someone, or we have chosen someone who will be able to speak to both Nobel laureates. So these are our 2 signature events that we are happy to continue to work with the Nobel Laureate Committee with. In the last 10 years, however, we have expanded our activities on the campus to encourage our staff and our students to celebrate and recognize our laureates in unique, expressive ways. One of the activities we had introduced was an evening of the arts that would take place on the campus in the evening, and it created a very special ambience. But with our financial constraints, we've had to move that. But what is significant this year about this activity is that our students have taken ownership of it. In the past, our faculty would organize and we would have the students participate. But this year is unique because our students are the writers, the directors, the actors, the costume designers of this play. So I want to encourage and invite you to the National Cultural Center on Friday, January 24th. Am I getting those dates right? On Friday at 7:30 p.m. for the student-led theater production entitled A Little Folk Tale. And it will highlight St. Lucian folklore, showing characters you know but don't want to meet. And that is the students' synopsis of their play. The students, again, very expressive. We also organize for them a poetry slam, which is spoken word. We just give them an opportunity to express themselves in their own way. And that will be held towards the end of the month. That is still a work in progress. Focus on the students again. We, in the last 5 years, have taken the opportunity to expose to the St. Lucian public excellent students, academically and otherwise. So we've had students represent each division, and we have them talk about their experiences and what has led them to the place they are as a very small footprint, because they in their own way have made their mark. And we've had some students who have made significant strides in their very young lives. We're going to take a different slant this year, and the discussion will center on a debate. We have a thriving debate society on the campus now. Last year, for the very first time, we hosted the first ever Windward Island debating competition. This year, it's going to be held in St. Vincent, and the students are preparing for that. And we will be presenting one of the topics to the nation in our panel discussion, hosted entirely by the students. Again, student-centered. We have tried to expose our students to all the different genres of literary and performing arts in the last few years. We've exposed them to writers, to musicians. We have had the drummers. The drummers last year were very, very well received, Nigel and his group. And this year, for our event called Meet the Artist, where we want them to explore whatever talents they have within them, to understand all the great persons that we have in our society with their own unique talents. This year, the genre we'll be looking at is folk music. So in helping them to be exposed to the various varieties of art forms that are out there and to appreciate folk music, we'll be inviting 2 folk groups. So they don't just perform, but they speak about the art, about the craft, and get students to understand what's involved in that. So that is our student activities. Where the faculty is concerned, this year and last year as well, we will be holding an academic discourse. And the topic that was chosen this year, and I've heard it being commented on in various activities that I've attended, so we want to explore the Dennery segment. It's evolution, revolution, or devolution. So we are going to have a number of lecturers and students participate in this panel discussion and explore the Dennery segment. Some persons regard it as negative, some persons see it as being unique to us. So we'll have the academics research it, the persons who are in the arts. It will be moderated by Mr. Vladimir Lucian, who himself is a great literary giant in his own way. And we are very, very proud that he is at the college and he's able to lead such a discussion. So that sums up our activities with the South of the West Community College. Again, we thank the Governor, we thank Dame Paulette Louise. I'm the first one to make that error, but it's a good one because you'll be forever etched that way. We thank the committee for continuing to push this. We thank the government of St. Lucia for supporting it. We believe it's very important to our young people, and as a college, we will continue to play our part in ensuring that we celebrate our 2 great Nobel laureates. Thank you.
Well said, Natalie, and I definitely look forward to that presentation on the Dennery segment. I'm sorry, I meant that lecture, that panel discussion featuring and led by Dr. James Fletcher, who has done a lot in terms of climate change and recognition of that. That lecture will also see panelists Mr. Derek Gibbs of the Caribbean Development Bank and Mr. Isaac Anthony of the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility. And it is not even so far from our memory what happened in our region during the last hurricane season of our neighbors, Dominica and even North, Barbuda, the BVI, etc., and even further afield in the very United States itself, it came home to them. So that should be a very interesting presentation in honor of the memory of Sir Arthur Lewis, as we have the memorial lecture presentation on climate change, the economic response to disaster in St. Lucia. Could have affected us directly. We barely missed that one. And the wider Caribbean. So tune in to NTN on Thursday, January 25th from 7:30 p.m. online and on air. And the National Television Service System, the National Television Network, and the Government Information Service will strive to bring you as many of these, probably not live, but at least over social media there. At this point in time, we will now have is Miss Christelle Lee. Miss Christelle Lee from the St. Mary's College, where many Nobel laureates have come from. And I'm told that many more will also come.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Dame Paulette Lucy. Very pleased to be here, and thank you, everybody, for being here. Of course, we can't talk about engendering laureates in our society and encouraging the youth without talking about St. Mary's College. St. Mary's College, as you know, our two laureates, as well as the ones to come, attended and are attending and will be attending. So for that reason, we thought that we needed to map out or look directly at what it is and ensure that when we helping, when we teaching, that we give the great indicators. So for our night, we normally have a theatrical, a production night. It's on the 26th of January at the Cultural Center. Our theme is Finding the Nobel Laureate in You, Inspiring the New Generation. So we seek to use the work of Sir Derek and Sir Arthur to highlight the laureate process. Look at the milestones, look at the landmarks, and along the that they have found along the path of achieving excellence. We take a journey, we sightsee, we look at the experiences, and we looked at what motivated and looked at underlying principles that each one stood for. And through the arts, through song, through dance, through spoken word, we look at exposing our youth, allowing our youth to show what they have as well as where they can go to. The program will follow Derek Walcott's life from childhood to adulthood as he tries to find his place in society. Meanwhile, coming to understand his purpose as a visionary and a national icon. So we attempt to bring to life a roadmap of excellence that will show, inspire, encourage, enlighten our young and upcoming intellectuals and expose to the general public what St. Mary's College is made of. Thank you very much.
Wow. I'm sure that we will prepare to be enlightened. Moving right along, long-standing and personal friend of Sir Derek in the form of Mr. Gandalf Sinclair of Warwick Productions. And I look in tune. We don't have Gandalf with us? He had to leave. Okay, but Gandalf had been very instrumental in the organization of a number of activities, including, I remember this grouping of poets who come every year to St. Lucia to pay homage to Sir Derek, and I would hope will continue to do so even after his passing. And Her Excellency noted that this will be the first year that we are actually celebrating, not only just without Sir Derek, but actually without any living Nobel laureates. We move on to another giant, Mrs. Margot Thomas of the National Archives Authority. Mrs. Thomas? Oh, my eyes seem to be failing me, but Mrs. Thomas, I call you to the podium to give St. Lucia an understanding of what's in store this year.
Thank you, Richmond. Dame Paulette Louise, colleague festival members, the media. It is a pleasure to have been on this committee from its inception in 2000, Dame Paulette. And through the years, the National Archives has ensured that it always make a presentation, and this year is no exception. For this year, we shall be putting on an exhibition entitled Women in Art. Without art, what a drab world it would be. And I am saying this because I have discovered it. Without a doubt, art is an important part of our lives, whether we want to admit it or not. Artists use creative imagination and skill to portray what they feel inside, and they desire to share this with the world. So our exhibition will include some of the well-known and not so well-known female artists of St. Lucia. We shall have artists such as Janine Girodi, Nancy Cologis, Janice Ogis, Sabrina Romulus, so talented, Elizabeth Anthony, Nicole Edgecombe, Alcinia Nolly, Kwame Thomas Sensier, Nadine George, Sharon Moise, and many others. Margot Thomas, yes. Thank you, Dame Paulette. Some of these artists, they use their art as a therapeutic outlet, others to reflect the beauty of the world around them, and still others to develop discipline and healing, to bring balance and wholeness to their lives and the world around them. It is hoped that this exhibition will enable students to venture into the world of art, to discover whether they have hidden talents, and above all, to appreciate art. So, ladies and gentlemen, we shall be having this opening of our art exhibition on the 24th of January at the National Archives. Those of you who have never been there, you're missing part of your lives. So some of you may walk with your hand hanging down because you have not been to the archives. The program for that morning will be a very good one. I have a few surprises in store for you, so I'm inviting all of you. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Gandalf Sinclair had to leave the island in a few moments, so definitely apologies on his behalf. Gandalf will be facilitating the presentation of Derek Walcott, a Derek Walcott film, Poetry is an Island. And that will be at the Barbados Film Festival on Saturday. So again, St. Lucia is being featured, and there is a great appreciation of those two contributors from even beyond our shores. I don't see Dahlia Fossois this morning, but Dahlia Fossois, along with Don French, represent St. Lucia Books. And it has been said before that reading is something we St. Lucians need to do a lot more of, so that we can enlighten ourselves, so that we can fact check, so that we can learn, and also dine out places to acquire books on island. St. Lucia Books has found the library, the central library, as a home, I remember. But these two ladies, Dahlia Fossois and Dawn French, will be facilitating reading and the promotion of reading, even outside of Reading Month that traditionally happens. But on this occasion, as we recognize excellence, two greats who did a lot of reading themselves and made massive contributions to literature and theory in their respective fields. So we now move on to, and I take a pause to say it because I bit my tongue twice saying it the first time, Ms. Perpetua James of the Dennery Development Foundation. Nobel Laureate Festival is celebrated throughout the island. And aside from just the Dennery segment, Ms. James will give us an understanding of what Dennery has to offer this year.
Thank you, Mr. Felix. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dim. We've been here we've been on the committee for quite a number of years. I saw it as a member of the foundation to allow Dennery to be part of, something good, something interesting. Small communities don't always get the opportunity to be part of, those good things, So I took the opportunity to engage the committee at the time to allow us to be part of, and we have been there since. It's like more than 9 years, going on 10 years now, we've been part of the committee and celebrating our laureates. This year, of course, we have our annual lecture. We always have a lecture on the lives of our laureates. We have not confirmed who our guest lecturer will be. We are still in discussion because, it's always a hassle to get people to come down at the time to Dennery. We understand it's a little distance away, but we have been, fortunate every year to engage, individuals who make us proud, who engage our people, But this year is a year where we would really like this person to, interact a little more with our audience, We want somebody who is very fluent in both languages, who can speak, because we have people of all, status, among us. So we want to leave anybody out. So we are still in discussions. And that takes place on January the 21st. That is a Sunday at Chateau Heritage. Every year, you must be wondering why Chateau Heritage. It's a place that I manage. It's a conference center, an event center that I manage. And it is a little costly to go outside of that venue because in Dennery, we are not blessed with a venue that will be appropriate for an event like this. We don't have the furniture, we don't have the amenities, So I give up my place for the program for the year, for every year. So it's again at Chateau Heritage. We move to the schools on the 25th, 26th, the 24th, 25th, and the 26th. We engage the schools and the theater arts department. We have collaborated with us in putting together a short skit entitled Celebrating Our Laureates. They will be putting that up. They will be presenting at the assembly. We don't want to take too much of it because they have their own programs, but we want to really engage them a little more. They will be also presenting at the other schools, the Dennery Infant and the Dennery Primary. So this is how we will be engaging our schools this year. They are very excited about it. They have been doing what they have to do. They have 2 skits, actually. On the 28th, we have our music festival. It's not only music. We bring in poetry and other forms of literature. These performers will be introduced by a group in Dennery. It's kind of a Siwenal kind of group. And it's kind of, very, very nice, So they will be introducing our performers on the night, and we are hoping to have a very good week of activities in celebration of our laureates. And I forgot to mention that after our lecture, we always have a cocktail. This year we want to keep it light, but there will be a cocktail. There will be a cocktail. I want to thank the committee for accepting us, for being there with us. We are regarded as a real member, and I want to thank them for that, and the other members who are very instrumental in ensuring that Dennery takes part every year in whatever it is that happens at the national level. I want to say thanks again, and I'm hoping that we can continue to celebrate our laureates in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James, for that. This morning, a lot is going wrong with me in terms of how nervous I am at this occasion. I neglected to recognize one of our key committee members in the person of Miss Kentilia Louis, who I must say was very instrumental in reaching out to the many celebrities you will be seeing in the promos that we have for Nobel laureates. So thank you so much for facilitating. And I take the opportunity to call you to the podium. Kentilia represents the Ministry of Education.
Okay, good morning to everyone. Good morning, Your Excellency. Well, as you know, both of our Nobel laureates, education was a major part of their lives. So, of course, you will realize when you look at the events for the festival, there are quite a number of activities by various schools. The Ministry of Education, Innovation, Gender Relations, and Sustainable Development, of course, we have on the ministry level organized our own activities as well. And we have three that have always been staples on the calendar of activities. Our first activity is our National Awards of Excellence. And this year we celebrate our 10th anniversary, so it's been 10 years. And one of the highlights of this year's activity will be the unveiling of new awards. Because we always try, we are Ministry of Innovation, so we must always innovate and try and make sure we are more representative. So that's something to look out for. And that will be on the 16th of January, Tuesday the 16th. We have next the Schools Music Festival. That is going to be on Thursday, the 18th of January, 10 a.m. at the National Cultural Center. And we have quite a number of schools from around the country participating in this activity, from the SDA Academy Choir to Delse and Mongouche. There's a combined group they'll be performing. We have Bourgis Primary, Babono Primary, Miku Primary. We have some of the secondary schools as well, from St. Joseph's Convent to Castries Comprehensive and Vieux-Fort Comprehensive. So you have both a nice range from around the country, and we will have, of course, from our choirs to our singers to our different instrumental groups, from we have to have our recorders, and of course our Assam bands as well. So we invite you to come out and enjoy. Let me take this opportunity to thank First Citizens Investment Services Limited for always being on board for the Walk at Schools Festival. We know and we are very happy to have the involvement, especially in terms of the arts. The arts, and I always say this, we always say that Derek Walcott, so Derek Walcott may be our Nobel laureate for literature, but let's remember in that the theater was a major part of his life. So, of course, we try to always represent that aspect of his life. He was also a visual artist, so within the festival, we do make sure that we have elements of both in terms of the activities. So this year, we are doing Tisha and His Brothers. And let me just say that Tisha and His Brothers, regionally, it's the play that's done the most by school students. It's actually both on the literature syllabus for CXC and the theater arts syllabus. So I can tell you, I always get calls or messages from around the region asking about this play. And what we recognized was that in the last 10 years, we actually have not had a production locally of Tisha and His Brothers. So we said, let's take this opportunity. And with the rise of youth theater in St. Lucia, and now we have all secondary schools on island offering theater arts, as well as primary schools coming on, it will be a good time to have a nice ensemble piece. And that's what we have. We have a combination of groups, from youth groups, from Skin Rhythms to Silver Shadow Performing Arts Academy, Youth in Arts, and Youth Spark, coming together with schools where we have students and teachers from Dennery Primary, Masha Primary, Vidbouteille Primary, Leon Hess, Cashie's Comprehensive, St. Joseph's Convent, St. Mary's College, Corinth Secondary, Sir Ira Simmons, Entry Post Secondary, and Sir Arthur Lewis, all of them come together. Our youngest member is 9 years old, and we go all the way up. So it has been a very interesting experience. And we have made sure that this production is going to be something that both students as well as adults can enjoy. So we encourage you to come out. On Friday the 19th at 1:30, we have a performance for schools. And on Saturday the 20th at 7:30, we have a performance for the general public. Tickets are $10 for students and children, and $20 for adults. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Kentilia. To make these events happen, it takes a partnership of a number of government agencies, but also persons of corporate sponsorship, and also persons in their own individual right and volunteering to come forward. The next committee member that I will call is Mrs. Kieran St. Rose, who has definitely worked with us again during the late nights and days as we put these together. Mrs. St. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Felix. We all know that to begin a festival or any activity, we must call on the Lord to make sure that the activities happen well. But before I go into the church service, I would like to say to our Your Excellency, Dame Paulette Louise, thank you for continuing to chair the Nobel Laureate Festival Committee. You have, I recall that role being handled to you from 2000 and up to 2017. You have done an excellent job. I wonder how you mesh the two with the role of Governor General and the role of the Nobel Laureate Committee. Again, I say thank you, and I know you know the achievements of the laureate, and you try to keep it alive. Thank you. Now let me tell you exactly why I'm here. It is customary that every year we hold a church service. This year is no exception. It is going to be held at the Kubari Mount of Prayers on the 21st of January at 7:45. Now, the monastery is a very small place, and I would advise everyone to try to be on time, especially as this is where the Governor General worships. After the church service, we are hoping to have a breakfast, a Creole breakfast at Auberge Seraphine, and it is $45 per person. And spending $45 to mix with the Nobel Laureate group is a good thing. We will tell you, we will tell you about if you all do care about the lives of the laureates, you'll be able to mix with us. And I promise you, at the church service, there will be 2 surprises. We're going to have a St. Lucian singing the Nobel Laureate song, I will not say the name now. And and I personally will distribute a token in honor of our Nobel laureate. Again, thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Mrs. St. Rose. Our next presenter will be Mrs. Leslie Crane Michelle, who was gravely missed during the latter part of last year, and we can all understand why. Again, excellence is a big part of what this festival pushes forward and celebrates. And that is done, we see at the very start of it, from kindergarten, preschool, right up to the Sumerians, those from So Arthur, and of course, definitely the University of the West Indies, represented in St. Lucia by the open campus there. So Mrs. Michelle will now give us an understanding of that aspect.
Thank you very much, Mr. Felix. Your Excellency Dame Paulette Louise, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, members of the Nobel Laureate Committee, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be here once again representing the UWI Open Campus St. Lucia. This year, as our contribution to the Nobel Laureate Festival, the UWI Open Campus will be hosting, and it's for the second time, the Patricia Ismond Literary Workshop. Dr. Patricia Ismond is, was a sister of the soil, St. Lucian born, and was an esteemed professor of literature who worked for many decades with the University of the West Indies, and another example of St. Lucian excellence that we can all deeply admire. She passed away in 2006. However, even after her death, Professor Ismond's love for and dedication to the UE and to her native St. Lucia continued unabated. And in 2009, her entire collection of work produced over several decades was donated by her sister Hester to the UWI Open Campus St. Lucia. 3 years later, the Open Campus was privileged to host a gathering of friends to witness the handing over of a $50,000 donation from the estates of the deceased Patricia Ismond. And that check, which was presented by her sister Hester, has been used to create the Patricia Ismond Scholarship Fund, which was a revolving scholarship specifically for St. Lucian students wishing to pursue literature or literary studies at the University of the West Indies. And so far, we have had 2 students who have benefited from that fund, and hopefully there should be another one this year. Given her sterling academic contribution to the region and beyond, and as well as her generosity to the Open Campus and the people of St. Lucia, it was decided, therefore, that as our regular contribution to the Nobel Laureate Festival, we would establish the annual Patricia Ismond Literary Workshop Series. We established it, of course, in her honor. So, in terms of the format of the workshop, it will be 1 day in duration, and it really takes the form of an intensive examination preparation workshop, specifically for students preparing for the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, or CAPE, Literatures in English. The workshop will be a collaboration between the UWI Open Campus, students and teachers of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and DAGS division in particular, and students of the Viewfort Comprehensive Secondary School. And of course, as I said, it will serve as our contribution to the festival. This second workshop in the series will once again be facilitated by yet another sister of the soil who has done a lot of work, Dr. Antonia MacDonald. Many of you might know her as a former Sir Arthur Lewis lecturer, and she, quite a number of years ago, left us and migrated to Grenada, where she is now currently a professor of English literature and associate dean in the School of Arts and Sciences, St. George's University. And of course, our contribution takes place on Friday, February 16th from 9 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Michelle. Our next speaker will come from the Cultural Development Foundation in the person of Mr. Jean-Claude Lagon, who is also the person on the committee responsible for the social media presence of the Nobel Laureate Festival. So, Mr. Lagon, you will give us an understanding how we follow and keep updated with all of these many events in real time, and also from the perspective of the CDF.
Good morning, everyone, Your Excellency. I would first like to begin by commending everyone. I know this has been a lengthy program, but it really shows the emphasis and the willingness to carry on the legacy and to let St. Lucians know that we have something to be proud of. These gentlemen have really accomplished great things in their lifetime, and unfortunately in St. Lucia, well, I think anywhere in the world, that sometimes, you know, if you don't place emphasis on something, if you don't recognize it, people forget. And this is something that is really unique to St. Lucia. We can brag about it, and I think that it's really wonderful to see for 50 events to be taking place during the course of this festival. I want to say hats off to everyone. For 2018, the Cultural Development Foundation is pleased to yet again be a part of the festival. We will be conducting the Derek Walcott Memorial Lecture. Of course, of his passing, unfortunately, last year, it had to be rebranded. We will have in attendance this year Ms. Kate Snodgrass. She is the artistic director of the Boston University Playwrights Theatre. Of course, this was founded by Sir Walcott himself. Ms. Snodgrass is very ecstatic about being in St. Lucia and facilitating this lecture. The theme for this year is A Playwright's Journey from Castries to Boston and Back. I am not certain how she's going to execute this, but I can say that for the past years, even with the themes that they have given, it has been a very thought-provoking process, and it enables and sets the environment for an interesting discourse amongst the audience and the lecturer. This activity is slated for the 23rd of January at the National Cultural Center. It commences at 7:30. I want to stress that it is absolutely free to the general public, and we encourage everyone to be a part of it. It has been growing as with the festival. Persons have really expressed the interest in seeing this thing grow. And even in us taking it outside, of course, you know, there are limitations in terms of cost and so on, but it is growing and we appreciate that. So I'm inviting everyone to be a part of it. And more recently, Ms. Snodgrass has agreed to facilitate a workshop. I do not have too much information on this, but I'm certain that it promises to be something that is unique and fruitful to the participants. She has promised that it's going to place a lot of emphasis on writing techniques, transitions, expression, and so on. So when she would make her way to St. Lucia, I believe she arrives on the 20th. She may not start right away, but persons can always contact the foundation and get more information on that. Our office number is 457-9021, or they can email us at info@cdfstlucia.org. Now I'm going to touch on the social media aspect of things. We, of course, live in a very digital age. Everything is on social media, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And I have raised it to the committee. Of course, this is my first year being a part of it, and I must say that the effort that goes in from the members, it's really astounding. And we are at a point where we want to engage a larger audience, and more specifically the youth, because for continuation on this committee and the festival as a whole, we need to engage these persons now. It's really crucial that they understand that, life is more than just, the fets and the lime and so on, and we need to appreciate these things. We have been working on Facebook in terms of our new brand for this year. We are adding some color and so on. And we will be engaging the social media platforms by means of live broadcasts of our productions and the events where possible. Also updating persons. So, there's that one central location where you can get all the information that you would require. I wouldn't say that YouTube as well, we would be engaging in YouTube with pre-recordings of the different things that we'll be doing. But the main aim is Facebook. I think that everyone and their auntie and everyone is on Facebook. And we intend to just keep the public informed, to know that hey, this is happening and you can be a part of it. No one is excluded from this festival. Thank you.
So let's get it right. It's Nobel Laureate Festival St. Lucia, and we spell out St. Lucia. So on Facebook, you will follow us on Nobel Laureate Festival St. Lucia. Thank you for that, Claude. Am I forgetting any committee members? Okay, my eyesight is a little not too good today, so I'm just checking. Ladies and gentlemen, this essentially brings us through the synopsis of the events for this year's festival and this morning's launching ceremony. Would definitely thank you all for coming, in particular, Her Excellency Dame Paulette Louise, for continue to work with us, continue to be our standard bearer, and pull us and nudge us in the right direction during our deliberations and our preparations there. Definitely, Ambassador Escalonza, thank you for joining us this morning. Other partners, representatives of both public sector and private sector organizations, and the many volunteers that we work with. So this basically brings us to the end of our presentation this morning. A program note, since we are still making the adjustments and trying to come to terms with the reality, I will ask that you tune into the Government Information Service through the National Television Network tomorrow, Friday, for the broadcast of the installation ceremony of the island's Governor General. That starts from 10 a.m. and you will be able to follow us on the National Television Network as well as online. So with that, I say thank you for coming this morning, and this basically brings us to the end, and now we start the real work. Thank you again.
Nobel Laureate Festival, celebrating excellence, celebrating being Lucian.
Hola,